Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your Steeler Nation podcast, part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network and sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G. Stryker, and today I'm joined by fellow Steeler Nation contributor, Jonathan Clark. Jonathan,
how
welcome
are we?
finally
Thank
to the
you so much.
podcast, man.
Finally, man. Nice to be here.
Nice.
Steeler Nation. Got the nice background here. We're all set, man. We're ready to go.
That we are, and you're set there with the fluorescent green headset. It looks awesome there on the vidcast. All the people watching can't miss him. He comes peacocking on his first show. That's great to see.
There you go.
So first thing I guess we should talk about is kind of like what happened last game, how we can kind of fix moving forward what we're doing. It looked like the Steelers started running the ball a little bit more effectively. On the ground, opening up some holes early in the game, and it's scoring obviously on their first drive for the first time in 10 games. First quarter points for the first time in 10 games. First drive, we're talking about like 3 years. 3 years for the first time scoring the first drive, which is absolutely insane to think about. And unfortunately, there was nowhere to go but downhill from there in the offense as they watched the Green Bay Packers mount 17 points then in the second quarter to their 3, and with that unfortunate ending in the second quarter too, where it looked like it was a perfectly timed play. Hayden and Minka jumping, timing the snap perfectly, getting in the backfield, full on block, returning for a touchdown, 10-point swing. Instead, the door swung the other way. The Steelers found themselves, instead of up 17-14, found themselves down 17-10.
Oh yeah, I mean, and Joe Hayden put it perfectly. I mean, it wasn't offsides. He wasn't offsides. I mean, it was clear. He wasn't offsides, and that was a huge momentum changer in the whole game.
It was.
I mean, if that happens, and momentum's a crazy thing. Everybody who watches sports knows what happens when momentum hits, and that was our game. If that happens, I firmly believe that. And
I did like Joe Hayden's comment today when he was asked in the press report, what could have you done differently, or how could this have been done differently to make sure that this would have been a big play for you? And he's like, well, the ref didn't have to throw the flag. Right. I mean, it's really like, how could you make this better in the future? Well, the ref doesn't have to throw the flag in that situation, and shouldn't have.
Yeah. I mean, he timed it perfectly. There's no excuse.
Yeah. And I think at least they did replay the play. Their problem was they couldn't see whether or not he was offsides, because I think they only had the angle from the behind angle.
And so I had enough to overturn it as well too. So that's the hardest part.
So I think that now you have to have the competition committee starting to really focus on the fact that you need to have the line of scrimmage also being recorded at the same time for punts and kicks, just to make sure we don't have an egregious issue like this ever happen again. And whether or not they learn from this specific instance. I remember, it seems like every time we play Green Bay, we have some weird thing happen on special teams, because I think we blocked a field goal, like I thought it was about 8 years ago, and we started returning it and like clipped somebody on the return, but the penalty reverted back to when the kick happened, so we didn't even get possession. So it was like insane. So we lost possession on returning the penalty. So, it's just crazy crap happens on special teams every time we play the Green Bay Packers. We just got to start getting used to it by now.
I know. And last time I didn't Boz kick a game-winning field goal against that Brett Hundley game and overtime a couple years ago as well. So, I mean.
And that was one of those plays where Ben had to hit like 2 plays and get like 40 yards just to get in position to kick like a 50-yard field goal to attempt to win that game. And they did. Yeah. They walked off the field winning that. And that was one of the years that where Boz made the Pro Bowl and had 3 game-winning kicks at the end of regulation in that year. And that was a hell of a year for Boz.
That was a great year. Great game, too.
Yeah, it was. It really was. It seems like every time they play, it's close. I remember the other time they played them and they had the game-winning catch at the end of regulation as Mike Wallace was like falling out of bounds on the corner of the end zone, in front of the end zone. Man, that was to win that game as well. And that was a game the Steelers came back from a big deficit as well. So you never know what to expect when you're playing the Green Bay Packers. Matchup. Yeah. But it's
football.
But it's always fun. Oh, yeah. At least it was great to have Deontay Johnson back in that game, because, man, Steelers really missed him. And I remember a lot of Steeler Nation, especially too on the thread here with the writers. It's like, wow, look at these wide receivers is just so inconsistent. There's no consistency. They're dropping footballs everywhere. I'm like, we're missing our number one target who gets the majority of the targets and who has not dropped a pass this year yet, when last year he led the league in drops. So another 9 catches, 96 yards, nearly 100 yards again for 2 games in a row for him playing, because he missed that game where everybody was worried about his inconsistency. But I am glad to see that it looks like Deontay Johnson is finally starting to round the corner and really become that go-to possession receiver that Ben Roethlisberger needs in that offense and that X receiver position.
Oh yeah, and you could tell even last year Ben was talking about how much he wants to trust his receivers, and he kept throwing to Deontay. It didn't matter. He could drop.
Right.
I mean, he dropped. I mean, everybody knows the stat last year, but he kept throwing to him. He trusts him. I think that's a big part of this year too, especially in Deontay's offseason. He's able to know Ben trusts him, and you hear the same back towards Ben. I mean, that's our quarterback. That's what they say towards him. So I think it's great to see too. And we didn't even seen him and Claypool do too much damage together on the field.
Yeah,
because one of the others usually out for one.
You're right.
Reason or what? So I mean, you can't even imagine. I mean, Deontay had a great game, but pair that with Claypool. I mean, either one of them, they play off each other. So you can't miss. And then Juju's a perfect little slot receiver to tag in there, because Ben loves to dump him those 5-yard balls. Just let him get those first downs and do the dirty work. So that receiving core, man, is dangerous. If we can just get him on the field at the same time, golden.
and I'd like to at least give a props too to James Washington for last game. 4 receptions, 69 yards, 5 targets. He was playing his natural, in my opinion, what his best position is, and that's the Z spot. That's the spot where Chase Claypool is the starter and supplanted him to be the starter last year. But he looks much more natural running patterns out of the Z receiver spot. He obviously knows how to stretch the field, get downfield, and make plays and try to keep the defenses honest as well. But nice to see him finally getting back there and have a good game, because he needs to build on that type of spot. He looked like a fish out of water trying to play in the X position the week before. He really did. Yeah. It didn't suit his receiving style at all.
It's good to see him too. I mean, you don't know the future with him, Juju, whoever's going to be on the field. So it's good to see him producing and him still having confidence and being able to go out there. And no matter if he's on the field or not, he's going to get the job done. And that's always been James Washington. I mean, every time he's on the field, he produces. Yeah.
And how about TJ Watt coming back after missing a week with a groin injury? Just racking up 2 more sacks. I'm just TJ Watt, highest paid defensive player. I'll get back in there. I'll do my thing.
It's a Watt mentality. Let me go out there. I'm the highest paid defensive player. Let me go out there and prove why I'm the highest paid defensive player. Typical Watt mentality.
And he's coming back off a groin injury. The groins obviously saps the explosiveness of explosive quick twitch players. So you hate seeing wide receivers getting groins. You hate seeing running backs getting groins. You especially hate to see these outside edge linebackers getting groins, which seems to be the entire team is getting groins. I'll talk about it a little bit coming up too. Keep getting kicked in the damn groin. But TJ, for him to come back, for the other team to know, hey, we got to stop TJ Watt. He's their guy, even though he's coming off that groin injury, still able to be disruptive, still be able to get 2 sacks. I think one of them he put on the ground. So it's just what we come to expect. And I didn't expect him to be that explosive. I still expected TJ Watt's 80% to be better than 100% of anybody else in the NFL. Right. I said, if you got TJ Watt at 80%, you play him.
Oh yeah.
He looked, and still, I mean, he looked like he was probably at 95%, to tell you the truth. So I'm excited to see him play this week, being even more explosive. His partner on the other side, Highsmith, coming in, being more explosive. Interesting stat I saw put out by the great Steeler reporter Alex Kozora over at the Depot today, stating that the top pressures on the team, number 1 is tied 11 pressures with Hayward and Ingram, the third man in that rotation, who is a rotating person, tied for the lead in pressures, and they're still dropping them back to pass. What the hell, Jonathan?
What's going on? But what a find, right? I mean, what a find. I mean, what a signing. I mean, even with Highsmith on the field, all 3 of them is scary, because we've seen TJ even move from the left outside linebacker to kind of floating in the middle. So if you can have TJ doing his thing in there and then have Highsmith and Ingram on the other sides, that's just dangerous. I mean, there's nowhere to stop anybody.
You might see all 3 on the field when you're doing that kind of crap. And that's what we saw in the preseason. We saw a lion's share of Highsmith and Ingram playing in the preseason, and they were rotating them left to right on different series or different plays. And then I noticed last game, they actually did rotate Watt and Ingram. So good to see that rotation happening within the plays to create the mismatches. It's something that we really could not do with Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree just couldn't go left. He couldn't come from the left side. I mean, he was at a deficit starting off there when they had TJ Watt on the right. They're like, let's swap sides, see how it goes. And that was the magic, man. That was it. Bud Dupree's game opened up. TJ Watt's game opened up. They just became like, both of them became monsters, but it's nice to be able to have that possession flexibility among the 3 edge players, the top, which are, in my opinion, the best top 3 edges we've ever had, because we've never really been this active rotating a 3rd edge player since I've been following the Steelers. I mean, even back when we had Harrison as a backup to Higgins and Porter, he wasn't getting rotated in. He was coming in when somebody was hurt. Or he was coming in, somebody needed a breather at the end of the game. But he wasn't really a rotational player, even though he was still an explosive player. But this is just a new thing to see. And to me, I think this is something I also wasn't expecting to see going into this season. Going into the season, I was expecting to see the offensive side of the football put up a lot of different personnel with that Matt Canada offense, utilizing these play shifts, utilizing new people in different situations to kind of screw up and make the defense think twice. I know with that injury to McFadden that we've had, it's kind of limited our availability to be able to bring McFadden onto the field to be that field stretching receiving option. I think Najee's more of a short area receiver, but McFadden has the high end speed. He can actually stretch the field, get behind those linebackers that are attempting to follow him if we split them out wide and those types of things. But I expect to see that possession flexibility and the rotating of players, bringing in that fullback, Derek Watt, who we rarely are seeing right now, rotating in the tight ends, who we're starting to see a little bit more Gentry coming on too, which is good. But they're doing it on the defensive side. I mean, defensive line, we knew they were going to rotate defensive line. They've always rotated defensive line. Now we're seeing out of the linebackers, and we're seeing a lot out of the secondary as well. They're rotating in Mullet. They're rotating in Killebrew. They're rotating. Sutton obviously is swapping from the slot back out to the edge position, and then bringing on at different times Lane. Witherspoon, I know wasn't active last game. He was active the game prior. So it's just and now finally that we have Hayden back from his groin, and he's looking a little bit better. So it's these players are starting to work their way back. Bush had a groin, Hayden had a groin, Highsmith had a groin, Watt had a groin, and now they're all starting to work back. So we're going to start seeing our defense playing at a level closer to what they were playing week 1, when they were a dominating defense against arguably the top offense in the AFC. Shut them down at their place. You know, the sky's the limit. We're playing Denver. We should be able to shut down Denver with these players, even if we don't have, like we said, we don't have Alualu anymore. We don't have Tuitt back yet, but with Bugs is starting to play a little bit better now. He's starting to get a little bit more comfortable in that role. I know he's not on the field as much. We don't require the nose tackle to be out there more than 30%. Wormley's picking up his game. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Wormley.
Yeah, me too, especially from last year. We saw him on the field, but he didn't do too much when he was on it. So, I mean, it's nice to see. I mean, it's good to see him get, he obviously was getting himself acclimated to Pittsburgh and everything. And it's nice to see him, actually perform and be there too. And I was surprised we didn't skip a beat. I mean, from last year, I mean, we just, even losing Bud, everybody was a little bit worried from having Highsmith there and wondering what he could do. But just losing Bud and being able to pick up probably in a better situation on that side of the ball than we were last year, which is a hard thing to say. It's shocking, but it's kind of not shocking. It's Steeler football. I mean, we've seen it for, 10, 15 years. I mean, it's just, there's a little stretch in there where, we had our trouble, but, dominating defense is what built this culture. So it's shocking, but it's not shocking at the same time,
Yeah, it is. And I like seeing Mondu back there on the field too. I love that big number 99 in there. I mean, I'd say throw him back at fullback, but we're playing like freaking Bruce Arians as our offensive coordinator. We're not even utilizing. I saw Derek Watt come out on the field. I'm like, yes, line up, smash somebody in the freaking mouth, Watt. And what do? Split them wide. I'm like, what the hell, man?
Just to get a cheer? Is that what it was for?
I'm just. You've got a $3.5 million fullback that you're playing strictly to play special teams, where this guy can physically knock the crap out of the guy in front of him, and catch the ball better than any other fullback we've ever had. Mm-hmm. Get him the damn football.
What are we worrying about? I just don't get where the question is.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there at the Cincinnati game. We were there. They dumped off like a 2-yard pass to him, got tackled immediately,
behind the line of scrimmage,
and took him out of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that was the only thing he did. And it's not his fault, but there's no game plan built around him.
Yeah.
You know?
So now we're at this point in the game. Obviously, the story of this game was missed opportunities. The opportunities were there. The receivers were wide open. Ben is overthrowing, hitting the ground, and just throwing behind receivers, which is something we're not used to seeing out of Ben. A lot of the pundits will say, Ben's at the end of his career. He's lost it. He can't play anymore. I'm from a different perspective. My perspective is he's still working his way back from this left pectoral injury. That's a month injury. That's a difficult thing to play with.
Right.
And even though it's his opposite, his non-throwing shoulder, every time he takes a snap, he feels it. Every time he takes a hit, he feels it. Every time he hits the ground, he feels it. Every time he coughs and breathes, he feels it. So this is affecting his body mechanics. It looks like he's not throwing cleanly. He's rushing plays when he doesn't have to rush. And this is like a new Ben. Like I don't ever remember seeing Ben playing antsy before, playing with happy feet, trying to get that ball out a little quicker than he thinks he has to. Because, man, at the end of the game, they were only rushing 3. Yeah. It's like they weren't even trying to get to Ben. They're like they knew they could get to Ben.
Right. And I wrote an article about the offensive line too in itself. Yeah. It's like, do you wonder if he doesn't trust the offensive line as much as he would like to in the past? Because I mean, everybody is pretty much not the same anymore. I mean, everybody is a rookie, hasn't been there for too long. So it's a whole new group for Ben to get acclimated with. It's not something he's used to. He's up there in age. Obviously, his arm, everybody says it's not what it says. It's not what it used to be. But I mean, I'm seeing him he's not making accurate throws, but he's still making throws. I mean, he's not far off.
There's no problem with his arm strength, in my opinion, Jonathan. I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, he's just maybe the accuracy's off. You could say that, but the arm strength, it's been there. I mean, you see him making deep throws. He still has that beautiful deep ball. I mean, he's still Ben. He's just got to get. I don't know necessarily what's going on with him, but obviously when the season progresses, last year we started off 8-0, and look where he ended up. I mean, there's a lot of situations where you never know what's going to happen. It's a very young season, and he's got plenty of time.
Yeah, and you always want to play your best ball at the end of the season as opposed to the beginning of the season. So, Steeler fans, we're not out of it yet.
Not at all.
You start stacking a couple wins, you're right back in this whole league, and you're starting to roll. I mean, what do we got? 3 games now until the bye.
Yep.
We have the bye. Yeah. So, and fortunately, the bye is coming earlier than later. I'm usually a huge proponent of wanting the bye late. I want the latest bye possible. But this year, the way that they're starting, you want the bye early. And we're getting an early bye. The Steelers are behind the 8 ball in the win-loss column. They've got injuries. This is a good time of the year to start rehabbing, getting back into it, and start moving forward. But so at least with quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, and I hear a lot of Steeler Nation chirping, is Ben done? Is it time to replace him? If you replace him, you're going to put in Rudolph, you're going to put in Haskins. What would you do, Jonathan? You're the GM. You're the coach. Sorry, you're the coach.
Yeah.
Time to put in another quarterback. Who are you going to? Whose arm?
Listen, I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I don't care. I like Dwayne Haskins, but I would put Mason Rudolph in there. I saw what he was able to do for a couple of games when he before that head injury versus Baltimore. I mean, there was that game against Seattle. He was right. I mean, that's Russell Wilson. That's a good Seattle football team, and he was right there in it the whole time.
And they needed that pass interference call overturned to get back into that game.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and even that whole season that he played, he didn't have a horrible season. I think everything was against him. There wasn't a lot for him that year. The injury did a lot for him, and he came back. What was it? 2 weeks after that. I mean, we saw him on the field. I've never seen a guy's face mask taken off his helmet like that. I mean, that was like old school football when he was taken up, and it just looked weird. I don't think anybody thought that was normal. No. So I mean, it was just in the seeing back 2 weeks later. He has good arm accuracy. He's got a beautiful deep ball. His game compares to Ben's.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's what Matt Canada is looking for. So if Matt Canada wants the type of what everybody's saying is the mobile quarterback, Haskins can be that guy as well. I don't think he's mobile, but I think he's a little bit more mobile than Mason would be. But I'm a fan of a pocket passer. That's just how I grew up watching football. I'm a fan of Ben's game, and I think Mason has a lot of the qualities to be a good quarterback. I think he just needs time. He's got the receivers. They've made it very easy for him to be successful in Pittsburgh. So if he gets the opportunity, I think he can run with it. I really do. I've always felt that way.
And I'm a fan of whatever quarterback can get you wins. The Steelers have done it with pocket passers, with O'Donnell and Maddox and Bradshaw, though Bradshaw was pretty mobile there earlier in his career as well as Ben was very mobile early in his career. And then the mobile quarterback, like having in Cordell Stewart. I mean, that was a game shift back when that happened. We should have made that more of like, if he was running Lamar Jackson's offense with that offensive line with Bettis, we would have won Super Bowls with him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Instead of trying to turn Cordell Stewart into a pocket passer and change him into whatever everyone else in the league was doing. If you had a college coach coaching a option offense in that league, nobody would have been able to keep up with that team. Nobody. And so it's just unfortunate that the mentality of the game and the strategy of the game wasn't where it could have been to really just get us over that hump from the AFC championships that he was able to make it to into the Super Bowl and winning Super Bowls. With this team, and with Matt Canada has shown he can do it in college with mobile quarterbacks and with pocket quarterbacks. Yeah. He's able to utilize talent, utilize plays, play action, and personnel shifts and motion before the hike of the football to get mismatches that help his quarterbacks make the proper play to hopefully put him in a position of making a good play that is beneficial for the team. Problem is Ben's not able to see it yet. Ben knows how to play Ben ball. And Ben's playing Ben ball 18 years. And I there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, we live and we die with Ben ball now, and it's going to keep going forward. It's going to be what it is. But I agree with you. If anything happens to Ben, I think next off the bench is definitely going to be Rudolph. Yeah. He'd be the first one you bring in. I watched preseason. I think Haskins has more upside.
Me too.
Than Rudolph, but right now in the system, you kind of have to go with Rudolph, knowing the system better. Next year, if Ben's not there and you have both of these guys competing for quarterback, it's no holds barred. I mean, I tell you, they will be on equal footing going into camp. And
as it should be.
Haskins, with a year under his belt, is going to be very, very difficult to ward off to be the starting quarterback, in my opinion, against Rudolph if they have to go through a full offseason battling to see who's going to be that next guy. Because no matter what, Steeler Nation, if Ben is gone and the Steelers don't bring in another quarterback, I know a lot of people want to bring in Aaron Rodgers. Hey, let's bring in Aaron Rodgers. It's like, hey, don't talk about it during the freaking game when we're playing them.
That's exactly.
It's like, kill Aaron Rodgers in this damn game, and we'll talk about it next year. Holy crap. At least TJ Watt got to throw him on the ground twice, be like, Aaron, come to my side, then you don't have to worry about me throwing on your ground. Right. Yeah, right? I think he'd love that. I mean, he's a Wisconsin guy. I mean, shit.
Right.
Watt grew up like 125 miles away from that spot. So he knows the area. He says the Watt family knows that.
We'll call it.
Yeah, right? They know what University of Wisconsin up there. They like their cheese with their cheese.
It's our best guy. Hey. Might as well send them out there.
They like the cheese. Take their cheese and dipping it in cheese and putting some spray cheese on it. And eating it down. That's
a pool of cheese.
A triple cheese. Cheese, nice. Yeah, damn cheeseheads. They know what's going on. And I'll tell you one thing, like just a quick aside. I went to a Steeler bar in Ocean City when I was watching the Buffalo game, and they have Buffalo wing heads there. So people had like foam Buffalo wing hats that were rooting for Buffalo, and they're amazing. I love your enthusiasm for your team. Those are great hats.
I went to a game in Buffalo a couple of years ago, and I was at that game with my dad. It was crazy. I mean, they're jumping off tables, all that fun stuff. It's crazy atmosphere up there, but it was awesome. That's what you want.
They're so fun. So, unfortunately, the Steelers weren't able to get back into that game. They got behind the 8 ball, too many possessions, too many turnovers, giving Rodgers that short field one too many times. The game got away from them and lost the game going away, unfortunately. Weren't even really competing toward the end of that game. But injury aside, we had a couple new people get banged up in that game. That was Cam Sutton being the biggest name. Getting a groin injury of all things, Steeler Nation. Who gets groin injuries on this team? What?
Fire the going coach.
Who's pulling our groins over there? My goodness. We got a female equipment. What's going on over there, the equipment manager? Oh, guys, stop pulling those groins. So Cam Sutton comes down with a pulled groin. Unfortunately, now he's missed his second practice in a row. He is now questionable. We'll find out a little bit later today whether he practices, but indications are not looking good, Steeler Nation, if he's missed 2 practices. Younger guy. Carlos Davis missing 2 practices as well. Zach Banner starting to chirp. He's on injured reserve still. He's still not counting on the roster because he hasn't been active, but he's halfway through his 21 days to see if he's going to be activated. He's starting to chirp on it on social media again. He's been off of social media since the beginning of the season. He does that when he gets injured because he doesn't want to have to answer it with all the chirping and stuff about his injury or have to answer the same question. Don't blame him.
No, not at all.
But if he's activating his social media, you can go to Vegas. You can bet on number 72 coming back in. Introducing number 72. The field. Tackle eligible. Zach Banner. Anthony McFarland also getting activated yesterday. So, like we're talking about, we're getting excited now, and he's got a hamstring injury. That's one of those injuries that I was expecting him to be back last week. I don't know if they're going to activate him this week. I still haven't heard if he's practiced yet, but I know Zach's practicing. He's starting to chirp. We'll find out here really, really quickly on whether or not these guys will be playing.
Anthony McFarland's a huge. If we can get him back too, getting Najee all those 15 catches or whatnot, just having taken him out, putting Anthony McFarland in there for a couple of plays. That's
right.
Good.
Right. Rashard Coward also, he dropped back. He was limited on Wednesday. Yesterday, he didn't practice at all. We'll see if he practices today, but he's moving backwards. He missed the game last week, and he got hurt late in the last practice, I think, in the previous week, too. He got an ankle injury then. James Washington showed up to practice. Whoa, with a groin! With a groin! Holy crap! It's like Chase Claypool pulling his groin the end of the practice the previous week, missing last game, limited both days. Now we're going to have to find out if he practices today. Fingers crossed, Jonathan, if they can come back from these damn groins.
I know.
But the good news is we got Cam Hayward back with that neck injury. We got Ben Roethlisberger back with that pectoral and a hip now. We got Juju Smith-Schuster back with his ribs. And we got Kevin Dotson back with his hip. And Chooks is finally, with 2 full practices in a row, he's officially off of concussion protocol. So they will still list his status under a quote-unquote concussion. But if he's full, he's playing. Yeah. Good. And that would be something else if we – now, here's the thing. Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Zach Banner is supposed to be the starting right tackle. Chooks Okorafor is supposed to be the starting left tackle. You got the rookie Moore Jr. over at left tackle. If Chooks comes back, who are your 2 starters out of those 3 guys?
I like Dan Moore. I know he's had a struggling first half of the season almost, but I like his upside. But I don't know if upside right now is what this team needs. I think maybe they need veteran presence on the offensive line. I don't know who I'd move to left and who I'd put at right. I think that'd be the biggest thing. Maybe Chooks fits a little bit better on the left side for me. Yes. I like Banner on the right side. But I don't know. I like having those 2 guys on that end. I think you have to get rid of Dan Moore at that point, just because based on where this team's at. If this team's in a different position where they're 4-0, 3-1, there's an upside, they're first in their division. There's a lot of things going for them. You keep Dan Moore in there because that can deplete his confidence. But especially now, I think, in the situation we're in, Dan Moore's not going to be upset. Obviously not being on the field, but understanding, we need to get veteran presence out there, especially with having 2 guys that Ben's played with. That'll be big.
And, Zach Banner, big friend of the show, strictly a right tackle. Yeah. He was the swing tackle back when he was the extra tackle coming in as tackle eligible, but that would have been like an emergency situation if he would have had to step in for Villanueva, which he never had to do. But he said, he's strictly a right tackle all through high school, all through college there at USC. He is a right tackle. So
he fits it. So
right. Yeah, definitely does. But he also said today he's ready to go. Like, he's chomping at the bit. The only thing holding him back are the coach's decision now. because he really, really wants to get in there. He's itching to get back in there and play, as people like to say. Moving up, now we're playing against the Broncos. I know the Broncos are having issues with Teddy Bridgewater, trying to fight back from a concussion. He still hasn't cleared protocol. He was limited yesterday. Even if he's full today, it still doesn't activate him. He's got to be concussion-free on Saturday as well to be able to play on Sunday. What do you see there? Who do you think is going to be the tackle? Is it going to be Bridgewater, or are we going to see Drew Lock again?
I hope it's Drew Lock, but I mean, and I like Drew Lock, but I mean, I think it would be. I don't think you send Bridgewater out there, especially being 3-1. I know it's a big game against Pittsburgh, but you look at it from Denver's perspective, it's a 1-3 football team, and you're trying to protect your quarterback. So I think we're going to see Drew Lock out there, but that's a good thing for us. I think this is a perfect game for us right now, especially being where we're at. I mean, if we win this football game, we're 2-3. You never know what's going to happen with our division. You can't focus on the division. This is a team we're familiar with. We've had good games, especially at Heinz Field with this team, playoff games. It's usually a good battle. Obviously, it's two good defenses going up against each other. I think Drew Lock's going to have a tough time battling against our defensive front, especially if we have everybody healthy. Sutton being out is going to be tough, but I like Lane in there. I mean, he's stepped up this year. He's played some good football. I mean, he hasn't played all the time. He's been there, but him and Pierre, they've kind of been switching, on and off. And I think this gives Witherspoon an opportunity too to be active and see what he can do. The Broncos receivers are a little depleted as well. I know Judy's out for the year or for a substantial amount of time. So I think it'll be a good test for us, but I think we're definitely, going to be in a better position if Lock's out there.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd agree with that too. We did pretty good with Locke the last time. We knocked him out of the game in the first half, and their backup started. I forget who the backup was.
I think it was game. Drixel.
Oh, was
Jeff Drixel.
Drixel.
Yeah, man.
That's insane.
He was mobile too.
He was, he was absolutely evading the rush and utilizing his feet well to at least get to the edge and extend the plays and get the ball out. Now we're at the point of the podcast where we start taking questions from Steeler Nation.
All right.
So Steeler Nation, all you got to do, go over to the football forum, SteelerNation.com, click on the forum. It's free to join. We put the thread out every week asking for questions, and the football forum always gets the first questions here at the Steeler Nation podcast. So questions, we got a bunch of questions here from one of our favorite podcast or favorite contributors over at Steeler Nation, Drink Iron City. Hey, Cope, I've been a busy son of gun, harvest time, and my company is balls to the wall. He said, expand on the topic of Tomlin Canada not allowing audibles, players not up to snuff on the verbiage thus far into the season. Well, it is a new offense. We have four rookies on offense now. And last game, it was 5 new offensive linemen from the previous season, because with Hagan there, Chooks was out with the concussion. That was a completely new offensive line than Ben had last year. There's going to be some miscommunications. I think that's probably why they want to keep it simple for audibles to not confuse them, but I'm sure for a fact Ben's got a couple audibles put in there to be able to get fire plays off, because you have to. It's just part of every offense since you're in middle school, since you're in high school. Your fire plays, they get quarterback, you yell, fire, yell out that number, you know what you're doing. It's one of those preset plays. Right. So I think it's more of them like kind of downplaying the question more so than trying to tip their hand, letting people know like, yeah, we're doing audibles. They don't want to tip their hand. They want everybody to know. It's much like Belichick. Belichick's very stoic. If you're asking him direct questions like that, he's never going to give you the answer. And I don't think Tomlin gave us the answer either, to tell you the truth.
I don't think we've seen anything yet from this offense, to be honest with you. I think there's Ben's getting out. You got to think he had Feichner, who was his quarterback coach for years. He had him as his offensive coordinator previously. So he's had comfort throughout his whole career. He doesn't have that this year. So everybody's got to get a chance. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he still has to learn things. Everybody still has to learn the game. So and we'll see it. We're going to see a lot of things that we haven't seen yet. You even heard Tomlin in Canada say they ran out of plays. They didn't have enough plays on their scheme. That's not something you're going to see from here on out. I can promise Steeler Nation that. That's not going to be something we're going to see for a long time.
Yeah. So question number 2, media is trying to brainwash the public. Is Ben really done?
No.
Yeah,
No.
we talked about that earlier in the show. I'm with you too. Yeah,
he's not done.
He's not the elite quarterback that he was. No. He's not a top 5 quarterback, might not even be a top 10 quarterback, but he is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Mm-hmm. And Hall of Fame quarterbacks know what to do to win games. Look at Peyton Manning's last year when he was crap. He was a bad quarterback, but within that system, excellent defense, good running attack, good play action, helped him get the time to open up plays and to deliver the ball accurately when he had time. That's all you need. That's all we need to do. The problem is our offensive running game is not helping out Ben the way it needs to help out Ben yet.
Right. And the same thing I said with like Mason Rudolph they put him in a good position to succeed. Right. Ben's got probably arguably the most talented group of receivers and running backs that he's had. Yeah. And his whole career. And it's easy to do that when you're a good quarterback, but it's also easier to do that when you're an older aging quarterback, because that just gives you somebody to dump the ball off to, which I hope he doesn't get too comfortable doing that. But that it just makes it easier all around when you have playmakers such as we have all around the football. Yeah. He's definitely in a good position to still succeed. I don't think he's done it all. He's got a lot more football left.
Yes. New tweet in here too. Danny Smith stresses that Presley Harvin is a rookie, but also knows his performance must improve. He's a better player than he's playing right now. And we know that. We know his upside is there. I thought he got ran into, or was at least feigning to get run into on that play where he only kicked it 20 yards. Didn't get to see the coach's film on that yet. I've just had such a busy week. Yeah. But to me, that was the issue there on that play.
Oh yeah, I thought he got hit too. I think he was acting at least like he was planning on getting hit, so I don't think that was all his fault.
Right.
But no, he has a boot. We saw it in college. We saw it in preseason. He's got a great leg. And, he'll figure it out.
And third question, we touch base on this a little bit. Let's get into this a little bit more. Can Dan Moore overcome, or is he just outmanned for this season?
He definitely can overcome. Dan Moore I think they draft him for a reason. He fits the part, and I think he has the talent. And he's not playing awful. I just think he's a rookie, like we were talking about earlier. He's a rookie. There's a lot of things that come with being a rookie.
Yeah. And this is a trial by fire. He's the only starter on offense that I wasn't expecting to be a starter, except that we had Banner go down, and then we had to figure out plan B on what are we going to do with our tackles, because Chooks is the only returner. Chooks was supposed to start at left tackle with Banner at right tackle, but since Chooks is out, or since Banner was out, Chooks had to move back to right, and we're going to put Moore where he's more comfortable at left tackle as opposed to trying to throw him at right tackle, which he's never played. And that would have been a debacle.
Right.
And so he's learning. As long as we still see progression every game, that's what you want out of your younger players. Yeah. As long as we're hitting week 5, week 6, and they're not making the same mistakes anymore, that's a win, especially for a player that was taken in the 4th round.
Right. Like you said, he's thrown into the fire. He was pretty much like, it just happened to happen the way that it did. He was thrown into the fire and had to produce. And I don't think he's doing terrible. I just think the team's not doing well. When the team's not doing well, it's easy to pick out which player is this or which player is not doing this or their job. It's easy to say that type of thing when your team's 1-3.
Yeah. Over on the other side of the tackle spots, his other question: will Banner live up to expectations, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think he hasn't been healthy. Banner's, every time he's been out there, not only is he a fan favorite, but he's always produced. I think the locker room guys like him. He's a great guy to have there.
He's a leader. He's already a leader and he's already a vet in that locker room. You got to think about the only people that were returning, like he and Chooks, I think were drafted the same year. Mm-hmm. Chooks was drafted by our team. He was drafted by Indy. Was off, and then we picked him back up off of waivers. But yeah, it's like they're the vets.
Yeah, that should be our 1-2 in the corner of that offensive line.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think he's one of those guys who could be a staple on this offensive line for a good period of time. All he has to do is be on the field and be healthy, but he knows that, and that's his biggest hurdle, is just getting on the field.
Right, and he signed a 2-year contract. I know going into this season because he was a free agent. I'm like, they've got to retain Banner. Got to retain Banner, and they did. And Steeler Nation, I don't think anybody could be more excited than me to see Zach Banner get on that field. You're going to see how a player run blocks. Yeah. He's a pancaker. The guy, there's a reason why he got cheered every time he came out as that extra tackle. Right. It wasn't just because he's like a WWE entrance with like a 2x4 over his head. Right. It's because the guy mauls the guy in front of him. That's why you
sweet tats in the hair.
And he's enormous, and he's twice the size of the guy in front of him. Right. So that's the guy you want on the field, destroying the man in front of him. Mm-hmm. So really, really excited to see Zach. Big friend of the show. We love you, Zach. glad you're finally getting healthy. And nobody will be cheering more than Steeler Nation when you strap up and you run out of that tunnel, man. Can't wait. Can't wait. And then Drink Iron City's last question is always fun. So this is more of like a wild card question, but his final question is, might have to retire my luxury 97 S10, but don't fear, as I may replay it with a luxury 94 Ranger. Any feelings on that? Note, if I do change, I plan on giving the Ranger a black and gold rhino liner type paint job, entire body.
Ooh,
as usual, thanks for, right? It's like,
I like that.
because me initially, I'd be like, why are you going back in time? Why are you going back 3 years there, DIC? It's like, hey, but no, it's like you're going from the S10 to the Ranger. You got more of like an enclosed body, I guess, on the Ranger, right? As opposed to the S10 being like a pickup, I believe. So yeah, that's a definitely good look, especially if you get that black and gold paint job on there, the entire body.
Through Pittsburgh, man.
Right.
Through Pittsburgh, now we'd be all set.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's out west. I know that he's not a local guy, but man, we love him. I forget exactly where he lives, man. I just always remember he's like, I think maybe Arizona area he might be at, but yeah, love having your chirping and chiming in, DIC, and really appreciate you. And I know he's always usually cooking when he's listening to this show, so enjoy your dinner too.
Yeah, man. Make sure to flip them. Don't burn them.
Good some for me. And, that's about all the time we have today on the wonderful show. Jonathan, thanks for joining us, man. I'm really happy you're here. I hear your buddy, who's the truck driver, he's in the hospital. Give him a quick shout out.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Jeff, I hope you're feeling better, man. I know I heard a couple things about you, but I hope you're feeling better. I know we talked a couple days ago, but we're rooting for you, man. And I think all Steeler Nation is as well. So I hope you're getting better.
We are. Steeler Nation praying for you, Jeff. Get back here soon. We love that you listen to us when you're on the long haul and listen in the truck, man. So, get back quickly, get back into game shape, and we'll be talking to you soon, man.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, tell everybody then how to find you on social media.
Yeah, at Jonathan Clark _7, at John Clark _7. Sorry, Jonathan Clark 7 on Instagram, John Clark _7 on Twitter. I post, I do one or two articles a week on Steeler Nation. I've been doing it for about 1.5 years now. I love it. You guys are awesome. Just seeing your comments and everything, the support is awesome. So yeah, just throw me a follow. I'll follow you guys back, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Perfect, man. Loved having you on the show.
Yeah,
obviously
now me,
anytime, guys. Steeler Nation, make sure to check out our sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises, over at tseshop.com. I know they always have free giveaways, so you got to follow them on Twitter as well. Always giving out a jersey after every game, so follow them. Great signed merch. Yes, now. Jump there now. tseshop.com. Read our great articles over at SteelerNation.com. Tweet us at SteelerNation. Instagram us at SteelerNation.com. Follow the podcast on Twitter at _SN Podcast or on Instagram at SteelerNation Podcast. You can follow your host here on Twitter, Instagram, and Chromecast now at SN Stryker. The Chromecast is every Monday at 3 o'clock. We're going to have some big names coming on, giving some big giveaways. If you got an Apple, an iPhone, download the app for free, the Colorcast app, and you are part of the podcast, of the Colorcast. You actually jump on, talk directly to Shazier, talk directly to Ike Taylor. So make sure you have those apps downloaded, and we'll see you on Mondays at 3 as well with those. Yeah. Thanks for joining us on SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises, part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, G. Stryker, with Jonathan Clark, rooting along with you as always. Go Steelers!